conflict. So you can say that the ninth house is severely afflicted. Hello, welcome back to another video on astrology. In this video, I am going to talk to you about God, atheism, and the ninth house. Let me start by telling you that the ninth house is not just the house of divinity, God, or the place of worship. The key word that you can use for ninth house is dharma. Dharma actually means the right way, the expected path, the law. These were created for the welfare of human beings. Suppose you are driving on the road and there are some rules, but these rules are meant to help you. For example, you are supposed to drive like this and people coming from the opposite direction should be on the other side. This is just a rule that would help both of us. So also if people believe in God, then there will be what they say God fearing, and because they are God fearing and they know the consequences of a bad action like sin, they have been told repeatedly that they might either go to heaven or hell based on what they have been doing on earth. So all the matters of ninth house is usually the reward or the punishment. So you will find that those who have a very auspicious ninth house, maybe Jupiter in the ninth house, they all have basic natural tendencies to worship God, listen to scriptures, listen to gurus, listen to teachers in class or college, school or college, wherever. So the listening habit is usually related to a ninth house. If the ninth house is afflicted, then it means that the person is not going to listen, because this is the method karma uses to ensure that the person has less information, and because he has less information, he is likely to make more mistakes, and because he does more mistakes than he doesn't, he makes mistakes with his investments, he loses money, and so therefore the ninth house is also called the house of fortune, bhagyasthana. So usually you will find that if the ninth house is afflicted, almost everything connected to the ninth house would be showing up. All the problems related to the ninth house will be showing up in a person's horoscope. Say for example, if the ninth house is afflicted by Rahu, the unconventional planet, the bold and the opposite planet, because all planets go clockwise and Rahu goes backwards, and Rahu is usually the rebel, and Ketu is not, because Ketu doesn't have the head, so it is not actually the rebel. So Rahu is a rebel, and those who have Rahu in the ninth house, they are usually rebellious by nature. It is not exactly that they are bad people. They are, suppose you say if he is a Hindu and you tell him that you must pray to God, then he is going to ask you, why should I pray to God, show me where is God. But in case the person belongs to another faith, even in that I have noticed that if he is a Muslim or a Christian, even then he has some doubts about God, because the ninth house is afflicted. And usually you will find this going in pairs, like for example, if the ninth house is afflicted, they do not have belief in God, and they do not have belief in what their father can do for them, so they will not listen to their father, or usually many of them have separated from the father, or father has done some big mistakes, and so the father has been pushed aside, and the person is looking elsewhere for guidance. So you find all these things. In fact, when I looked up some astrologers' horoscope where they said Ayanamsa is wrong, so which means that they use the tropical system and not the Indian way of doing the astrology charts. So which means planets, all the planets will be in the almost 23 degrees plus towards the front. So if you use Ayanamsa, the planet gets shifted backwards, and so they have been saying that you look, you are making a huge mistake, and actually the planet is only the tropical system is correct. But if you look at the whole world, most of them, at least 95% of them, are using the horoscope with the Ayanamsa, and so people, any astrologer who has his ninth house occupied by Rahu, usually, this is usually, okay, because there might be something else in the horoscope which might contradict this, but I have often found that Rahu in the ninth makes them look at astrology in a quite different angle from the rest. So basically a ninth house affliction is not conforming, not following the traditions. So that's how it is. So I am now going to tell you a short an experience that I had with a client, and as I was looking at the horoscope of his wife and children, I found that all of them had the ninth house afflicted, whereas this person did not have his ninth house afflicted. And when I noticed a pattern that the mother and the children, all of them having the same thing, I suspected that there might be a tendency to convert into another religion. And therefore I started talking on these lines to the client, and when the client noticed that I was trying to, I'm hinting at the possibilities of changing, converting into another religion, because I gave him some explanations like, do you know why Sri Krishna has 16,000 wives, or why in Hinduism there are 33 million gods, and these kind of questions, because these are the questions that are usually asked by people who belong to other faiths. When he said, why are you asking me all these questions, I said, I'll come to the point. Then I said that there is a great tendency for your family members to convert into, I don't know, maybe most probably it is Christianity, because there is a active conversion going on in India. So I use common sense there. And then he said, okay sir, you can stop here, because already that is done. So my wife and my children are already converted into Christianity, become Christians. So but of course you can always say, is it mandatory that those who have ninth house afflicted will always be an atheist or a disbeliever of his own faith? I don't think so. It's all the time it happens, because long time ago, even before this incident, it happened in 1993, when I was not at a professional astrologer. I had another job to do. And during that time I met a Brahmin boy who came to me for something else, because I was having a computer center, and he noticed that I was reading astrology books, and he said, what is that you do with astrology? And then I told him I'm learning astrology. And then he said, he was very I noticed that he was very proud when he said that, I don't believe in all these things, astrology, gods and these things, and Hindu gods, he said. And said, what did he say? I asked him. He said, Hindu gods, and that's the reason why I'm going to convert into Christianity. I'm already I'm in touch with the church, and they have been after they've been convincing me for nearly 1 year, and so I've decided to convert. Then I said, see, you don't have to tell me your date of birth, time of birth or place of birth, and yet I'll tell you where, how's your ninth house in the horoscope. He said, I don't know what's my ninth house. Then I told him, so let's say this is a horoscope, and I drew I put a lagna somewhere randomly and said, this is the first house, and then count 1, 2, 3, 4, 9. In this house you will have at least 3 planets. Only then you might think on these lines, that you want to get out of this dharma and join another dharma. He said, okay, I don't know anything about astrology, as is usual of students who come from IIT. Then he said, okay, I'll go back home and maybe I'll ask my mother. Next day morning he rushed to my office and said, so this is my horoscope, and my mother says, yes, it is true that I have 3 planets in the ninth house. And then he said, what does this mean? How do you know that this is going to happen? I showed him books, and then he started understanding everything about it, and then decided not to convert. So you find that it is not exactly that this will happen, because there is always something else that can happen to stop it. But once it has happened, it's so difficult to reverse all this back. The ninth house actually means going about a particular set of morals, certain rules, sticking to the rules. So ninth house is also the house of higher education, because immediately after ninth comes 10th house of profession. So college education, which actually lands you in a career. The ninth house is the last but one education before you start working. So the ninth house is very important, because it will somehow have a great effect on the next house, the 10th house. So if the ninth house is afflicted, you will run into trouble with professors, and because you already used to not believing in God, not believing in your father, you fought with your father and so on. So the same habit continues. in college also. So you want to just show off and say, look, I'm very different from others. I can actually walk out of this class. I can hit the, I can slap the teacher. You can do all sorts of things like that once you have the ninth house afflicted. You will notice that there are two kinds of remedies. One would be actually giving away things or giving away farm animals or something like that, like giving a black cow in charity when Shani Antardasha, Shani Mahadasha is on, and especially when Saturn is the lord of the second or the seventh, Mercury Mahadasha if he is lord of 2 and 7th, Maharishi Parashara says you should pray to Mahavishnu. If you look at what is the logic behind all this, is that it wants you to recognize a higher power, and because you can recognize a higher power, you become God fearing, and you feel that you are lesser than that, and so you are not so egoistic about it, about your life, and that's the first step towards success. So you always find that atheists struggle a great deal, which is why Jesus also said the same thing, that the life of a faithless man is very difficult, because he doesn't really know what he is doing, and there's nobody else to look up, look at him. So he's not really worried about the consequences, and sometimes you find in bad dashas and antardashas, suddenly the person turns into an atheist, and usually you will find that the planet that afflicted the ninth house, the dasha or the antardasha had started, which is when they start thinking that okay, there is no God. In many cases you will find if the ninth house is afflicted, they lose their father early, or somebody extra, very elderly person in the family, which is like a father image, and because the father died, I've heard this quite often, when did you stop believing in God? The day my father died, the day my grandfather died, the day my mother died. So they seem to be angry with God because something has happened, somebody has passed away. It's very natural for people to think think on these lines, but it mostly looks like they are angry with God because God did not save their the father or mother or whoever has passed away. So their idea of God is that God saves you from death, whereas every day 1.5 lakh people are dying every day. That is the statistics of the world. So then they fail to notice that death is a recycling that happens on earth, because these souls have to go away and they have to take birth again. So they fail to notice that, and so their view of God is quite different. They are angry with God, but they mix it up with atheism. I don't believe in God. So when you start following on your father's feet, you start bowing down to your father, to God, to the place of worship. In the place of worship you pray, temples, mosque or church. So all this shows that you're willing to bow down, you're willing to surrender, and this is the first step towards success. You look at any sportsman versus coach relationship. The boy who can put up with everything with the coach, he will always grow. He will become a better player. Whereas when the coach loses his temper, and suddenly the student will say, okay, I quit, I'm not coming here because you're abusing me a lot by your words, so I want to quit. But these kind of harsh situations can come in a game, and the person has to be ready for people not appreciating them, people demoralizing them, or wanting more out of them. All this is part of the training. So when something bad happens, it's just that God wants you to know certain things about life and to understand life from a very different point of view, whereas we turn angry with God. And you can also check it out for yourself if what I'm saying has some relevance. You can quote some horoscopes, your experiences with astrology, with ninth house affliction, and what has happened to them. So you can type these experiences in the comment section. So let's all look at it. So take this is the ascendant, the first house, and Rahu occupies the ninth house. This is the house of dharma, God, and conventions, traditional. Now this person can be highly non-traditional because Rahu is also debilitated in this sign, which is called Scorpio or Vrishika, whereas Rahu here is exalted. So the problem of Rahu being in the ninth, if you read a book, you will not get the same results. You will not get the same results because Rahu is in the ninth in this way also, but this Rahu is less harmful because Rahu is exalted, whereas here it is debilitated. So, we will come back here and we'll bring back the ascendant here. So, now there is something called stacking up. Stack up or stacking up means that more afflictions have happened to this house, which will almost confirm the problem of the ninth house. So, let us introduce the sun here. So, whenever these two planets come here, this is the time when out of the year 2 times eclipses happen, and know for sure when Rahu and Sun are together there will be an eclipse, and therefore this Rahu and Sun they are in great conflict. So, you can say that the ninth house is severely afflicted. Anyway, when the Sun in the ninth house, if Sun is in the ninth house, Sage Bhrigu says that there will be problem with the father, but he does not say that there will be problem with belief in God, because Sun, if I remove this, he says the Sun in the ninth will actually boost up the belief in God. He says Sun onwards the person will be a worshipper. So, many people worship the Sun having if they have Sun in the ninth house, but the moment you introduce Rahu, it completely changes. There is a kaleidoscopic change to whatever I said for Sun in the ninth, and now it is completely opposite. This person will be definitely against whatever is called conventions, God and all those things. Why should I listen to professors? Why can't I be on my own? Those kind of things. Suppose you add, if you add another planet like Saturn here, then it will be like confirmed this person will be an atheist. Now, let us say if this was a situation but you had Rahu straight opposite. Now, let us say if Rahu was in the ninth house in a horoscope and you had Jupiter straight opposite to it, this is actually the opposite, 180 degrees, this is not, okay. So, this one, now it means that though the person might have some problems with Rahu being in the ninth and whatever I said earlier can happen, at some other point in life the person can change and become better. He can suppress this Rahu, whatever is the manifestation of this Rahu, because Jupiter is looking at it. Now, Jupiter is the knowledge planet. So, whenever Jupiter looks at Rahu, it actually gets better. Whereas, if I put Jupiter along with it, now it can be modified, but here it is very difficult to say who will win, because when good and bad join, it is so difficult to say what might happen, because Rahu is along with Jupiter. So, there is a possibility of Jupiter being afflicted by Rahu. But if there is a link between Jupiter and Rahu, even if it is along with it, and if you can convince the person can subdue Rahu. This is because there is a teacher available, and only thing is if the person listens, this will win over Rahu, and if he chooses not to listen, this will win, Rahu will win. There is another way of understanding this. Ninth house is afflicted, and let us say the ninth lord, the lord of this house is Mars. If the ninth lord is in the 8th house, then because it is in the 8th, it is actually behind the 9th, which is to the 12th from the 9th. So, this is really bad, and so there is a great loss of bhagya in this person's life, because the 9th lord of bhagya has gone to the disappointment house number 8. So, if I remove this and if I add the sun back here, this is a seriously afflicted 9th house, and in most cases the person will not listen to even astrologers. So, they will tend to reject astrologers. They will reject the theory of astrology, theory of karma, and people having this combination can get into a lot of unwanted things. So, I'm sure you have something to say, and please don't hesitate. Please type them out in the comment section, and together let's learn.